The evening had long since draped the city in a cold, murky haze, and I walked along the deserted street, trying to reach home as quickly as possible. The distant ring of a street lamp echoed off the wet pavement, and every echo of my footsteps amplified my sense of solitude. Suddenly, my phone rang, displaying an unknown number. My hand trembled as I pressed the answer button, and a voice, eerily identical to my own, spoke. "Do not go into the apartment." I froze, struggling to comprehend what I had just heard. It was as if a voice from the depths of oblivion had reached me, a voice that sounded exactly like mine. Inside, everything was turned upside down. My mind insisted on a logical explanation, while my heart began to pound wildly. I turned around, scanning the darkness, but the street was completely empty. In that moment, I felt fear gripping my heart. Why would a voice that mirrored my own warn me? What was the meaning of such an absurd caution? These thoughts whirled through my head as I continued walking, caught between confusion and terror, hardly believing what had just happened. Every sound of the night seemed like a sign. Every shadow played tricks on my eyes, as if trying to convey a hidden message. It felt as though someone, or something, was watching me from behind, and even the cold wind carried faint echoes of my own voice. Perhaps it was a dream, or an illusion born of fatigue. Yet, the inner voice, heavy with dread, refused to leave me in peace. I wrestled with the desire to understand the reason behind that strange call, even as my instinct screamed at me to run. I reminded myself, it's just a random occurrence, a ghost of the past playing a cruel joke. But the doubts and fears only grew, spreading inside me like a poison that seeped into every thought. Beneath my feet, the pavement's cracks sounded like brittle whispers, and the sky, as if reflecting my inner turmoil, opened up into a black, inky void. The phone now lay silent, leaving only the echo of that foreboding warning that haunted me. I felt my hands trembling and my thoughts racing, desperately searching for any rational explanation. Perhaps someone was playing a sick trick on me, or maybe it was a cry for help, camouflaged as my own voice. In that moment, it became clear. There was no simple answer, and reality was about to teach me a lesson from which there was no escape. The uncertainty mingled with a deep sense of impending danger, and I quickened my pace, desperate to flee from an unseen pursuer. Every street lamp cast long shadows, and I kept glancing at them, as if they might offer some clue. My thoughts were torn between logic and panic, and the night seemed full of secrets. When I reached my building's entrance, a tempest of emotions raged within me. Memories of long-forgotten fears and anxieties resurfaced, making my heart race wildly. I stopped at the door, trying to collect my thoughts, especially since even before I could turn the key in the lock, I began hearing distant sounds, as if someone was already inside. My mind raced with questions. What if this is a trap? What if I'm not alone? These thoughts made every fiber of my being tighten with terror and uncertainty. It felt as though invisible hands were pulling me toward an unknown destiny. With every step, I sensed that I was drawing closer to something inexplicable, a meeting that would upend my entire life. Standing before the door, I glanced at my phone once more. Its silence now felt like the calm after a storm. Yet inside, the question persisted. Should I heed the warning and trust logic, or continue as usual and step inside? The decision seemed impossible, as fear stripped away my defenses and made my soul tremble. Raising my hand, I extended the key to the lock, feeling the cold metal seep into my skin. Each second dragged on, my thoughts beating in time with my pulse. In that moment, it felt as though the darkness outside my home had become alive, ready to enfold me in its chilling embrace. The inner voice warned, "Stop, don't enter." But my mind, caught between despair and a bitter curiosity, compelled me to take another step. Soon enough, I was standing before my door, unaware of the horrific surprise awaiting me inside. With a hesitant heart, I opened the door and stepped into the apartment, where dim light and silence both comforted and terrified me. The light filtering through the drawn curtains painted shifting, ghostly shadows on the walls, reminding me that danger lurked at every corner. As I made my way down the hall, an odd sensation crept over me, as though the space itself was transforming, and every detail was imbued with a sinister meaning. In the room where I usually enjoyed the quiet of my evenings, an unexpected sight unfolded before my eyes. There, on the sofa, sat me. Yes, me, but not the me I recognized. The face before me, identical in every way, watched with calm eyes, as if it couldn't fathom why I had arrived. My heart hammered in my chest, and thoughts swirled uncontrollably. How is this possible? Who are you? A chill crept up my spine, and the invisible line between reality and nightmare began to blur. That moment stretched into an eternity. I studied my doppelganger, trying to catch every nuance of its face, hoping it might reveal the truth. My hands clenched involuntarily, and my mind desperately sought to make sense of this monstrous apparition. How could such a coincidence be explained? Lightning-fast questions tore through my consciousness. I attempted to speak, but my voice faltered, leaving only a heavy silence in its wake. The clock on the wall seemed to slow its pace, as if marking this bizarre moment, and my breathing grew shallow and tense. Somewhere deep inside, a part of me screamed to flee immediately, but my feet, as if shackled by unseen chains, refused to obey. I sat down opposite my double, and then an unexpected twist occurred. The look in its eyes shifted to one of profound despair and pain, and its lips began to move, as if trying to utter something that my ears couldn't catch. The soft light's shadow pulsed, and I sensed that everything around me was charged with an inexplicable force. Questions multiplied relentlessly, while answers remained hidden, as if reality itself refused to divulge its secrets. A creak sounded behind me, and in that instant, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Darkness descended upon the room, and my double, now seemingly a creature of myth, turned towards me, holding my phone, from which the ominous ringtone began anew. The voice, echoing my every word, penetrated to the core of my being, and I felt time stand still, leaving only the resonance of terror behind. "You should not have come," the voice repeated, as if attempting to impart an ancient truth. Trapped in a nightmare, my thoughts erupted into chaos, each moment transforming into a new trial. It felt as though the walls of my home were closing in, creating a labyrinth of reflections and shadows, where truth and fantasy merged into an inseparable whole. I tried to find a way out, checking every corner of my mind, but the inexplicable strangeness was overwhelming. Phantom images flitted in the periphery, and every step I took reverberated in the emptiness, a place where neither time nor space seemed to exist. Inside me, a turbulent storm of thoughts clashed, each one fighting for a shred of rationality. Every new detail tightened the grip on my heart, while the voice, echoing my own words, grew ever more insistent. I could no longer separate myself from the reflection on the sofa, or from the incessant phone call, a call that symbolized an impossible choice between what was and what is. My heart pounded in sync with my shallow breaths, and my mind raced with a single desperate question. How can I be trapped within my own consciousness? What does this strange warning mean? That question became a mantra, repeating with each beat of my heart. In that moment, I realized I had gone too far, and now every movement, every word could lead to irreversible consequences. The pulsating ringtone on the phone unleashed a cascade of inevitable changes, and I felt the fear transforming into a determination to uncover the truth, even if that truth was darker than my wildest nightmares. Each moment stretched into eternity, and I, as if imprisoned within my own nightmare, began to scrutinize the face of my double. In its eyes, I recognized myself, but not the version I trusted, rather the one that harbored hidden enigmas I had never dared to acknowledge. Every wrinkle, every curve of its lips spoke of secret experiences that now belonged to me. A burning sense of guilt and disorientation rose inside, as if I were forced to confront parts of my soul I had always kept in the shadows. Memories surfaced one after another, like forgotten pages from an old diary, each entry steeped in fear and inexplicable pain. In a moment of horrifying clarity, I realized that many aspects of my past were now taking on a sinister turn. Perhaps all those fears, the moments when I felt isolated and misunderstood, had found their reflection in this unknown double. I tried to scream, but the words lodged in my throat, and my mind, seized by panic, failed to grasp what was happening. A battle raged within me between what I thought I knew and what lay before me, a meeting that defied any rational explanation. The closed door behind me became a symbol of my entrapment, and the phone, ringing once again with a voice that echoed ancient guilt, stirred every fiber of my being. I desperately tried to recall if there had been any events in my past that could have foretold such a twist. Yet, everything seemed erased, as if reality itself had rewritten my history, leaving me no chance to understand the origin of that voice. The questions in my head grew ever more insistent, and I began to suspect that perhaps, at some point, I had rejected something crucial, and now it had returned to claim me in the most unexpected moment. In the silence filled with the echo of my own voice, I felt a shift deep inside, a strange acceptance that this confrontation was inevitable. It was as if fate had decreed that I must face myself head-on, unmasking the secrets buried in the darkest corners of my inner world. Yet the truth was brutal. It demanded a complete immersion into my own subconscious, where every decision and every hidden thought intertwined in a complex pattern, leading to an inevitable climax. It felt as though an unseen hand had reached out to me, and I sensed that reality itself was slowly shifting. In every corner, in every reflection in a mirror, fleeting images of past scenes, once forgotten, now came alive with a sinister intensity. Moments when I had felt estranged from my own body resurfaced, making my heart race even faster. In my double's eyes, I saw a glimmer of an enigmatic secret woven into every moment I had ever lived. I began wandering through the apartment, as if trying to find an exit from this labyrinth where the past and the present had merged into a chaotic whole. Every room told its own story. On the walls, faded photographs glimmered. On tables, old letters with forgotten words lay scattered, and every sound felt like an echo from lost years. In one room, I discovered an old diary, its pages filled with disjointed notes and strange symbols. I flipped through them, desperately seeking any hint that might explain the unfolding events. But the text was shrouded in mystery and ambiguity. A persistent feeling that someone was watching my every move became unbearable. I heard rustling in the corners, felt as though the walls were breathing, and even the air seemed charged with secrets. Fragments of thought whispered in my mind, what if all of this is a predetermined path? Perhaps my destiny has long been entwined with this house, and I am merely following a script written by fate. These questions tore at me from the inside as I struggled to find some semblance of logic in the madness. At that moment, the phone rang again, a call that seemed not merely a signal, but an invitation to participate in a game where the stakes were far too high. With every passing minute, it became clearer that the world around me was nothing more than a reflection of my inner self. Memories, suppressed fears, and hidden desires suddenly took on physical form, becoming an integral part of that eerie night. I felt the threads of destiny weaving themselves together, unveiling an infinite cosmos of secrets, where coincidences had no place. In the struggle between past and present, between terror and determination, I realized that I must accept what was unfolding, even if it meant confronting every dark facet of my being. Each new step, each revelation, left an indelible mark on my soul. The surroundings seemed to scream of impending change, and I knew I could no longer remain a passive observer. This house, filled with shadows of the past, demanded an answer, and the voice emanating from the phone became a guiding beacon through the maze of my inner self. I continued onward, uncertain of what lay around each corner, but unable to turn away from the destiny that demanded a face-to-face encounter with my true self. When hope seemed almost lost in the midst of that nocturnal drama, another call rang out. The screen displayed a familiar name, as though it held the key to unraveling all the mysteries. The voice, once again identical to mine, spoke. "You must learn the truth." Struck as if by a bolt of lightning, I felt something stirred deep within me. This call became the final stroke on a canvas, where every detail assumed a profound significance. Gathering all my courage, I approached the sofa where my double sat. Its face, etched with the shadows of lived years, met my gaze, as if it knew every secret hidden from me. That look awoke in me long-forgotten recollections, moments when I had been unable to understand who I truly was. In that instant, as if reborn, I realized that all the trials, fears, and anxieties were merely preludes to an inevitable awakening. I remembered dreams long abandoned, hopes left unfulfilled, and suddenly understood. To conquer the darkness, I had to embrace every aspect of it, even if it was reflected in my own face. My heart beat in unison with the rhythm of time, and I sensed life taking on a new meaning in this strange game of mirrors. The door, which moments earlier had seemed an impenetrable barrier, now symbolized the beginning of a new chapter. In its reflection, I saw not only my own face, but a multitude of images, each a fragment of my being, a mix of pain and joy collected over the years. The voice, echoing my own words, resonated in my soul. It is time to be wholly yourself, without masks or illusions. In that moment, fear evaporated, replaced by a warm resolve and an inner calm, as if all the hidden truths had finally been revealed. I stepped toward the sofa, and my double extended the phone to me, as though passing on the baton of control over my own fate. It smiled, a smile both joyful and tragic, laden with the understanding of an inescapable choice. I accepted the device, and the voice in the earpiece began to speak once more. Now you know that the truth always lies within us. You have chosen your path, and from now on everything will change. In that instant, past, present, and future merged into one. I realized that every encounter, every call, every shadow and reflection was merely a thread, woven into an immense tapestry that led to this fateful moment. My fears, my doubts, all dissolved, replaced by an inevitable harmony. Resolute in accepting my destiny, I stepped toward the light, leaving behind the darkness and the cold of the night. Beyond the door, which was no longer a prison but rather a gateway to a new life, I heard one final calm ring. That call, filled with knowledge and farewell, marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. My reflection, my true self, smiled back, and in that very second the world around me dissipated, giving way to the warm glow of morning light. A light that promised new hope, a new beginning, and a new story where fear would yield to understanding, and destiny to the wisdom of lived moments.